Hi, welcome back or welcome in, wherever you're receiving this transmission. I appreciate you for tuning in today. I wanted to keep that casual feeling, you and me catching up, and one of the things I thought would be most beneficial to you would be talking about a journey with self-love. Whenever I have people contact me for one-on-one coaching, it's usually along the lines of, inside, I just feel like I am not at a high level of self-worth. I'm feeling not capable, I'm not feeling worthy, I'm not feeling like I love myself, I'm not feeling like I'm attracting really good things because I feel like I'm devaluing myself in some way, and it's showing up in I'm not attracting good partners, my job is not paying me what I'm worth for my time, I'm just not feeling confident or myself, and I just overall don't feel good. When I go to sleep at night, I'm just worried. I used to be someone who really struggled with self-acceptance. I mean, like, deeply struggled. I couldn't accept my situation. I couldn't accept how I felt. I could not accept how I looked. And in my teenage years, this really pushed me to some extremes. To be vulnerable, I accepted terrible treatment from others, from even my friends. And I wasn't happy with how I behaved. I wasn't happy with how I looked. I wasn't happy with how I felt. I was so depressed, so sad, and I even would physically hurt myself. I ended up getting help and recovering from this path. But even if you aren't in the extremes of you're actively very much struggling every single day, there's slight ways that we put ourselves down. Not having a full, healthy self-worth shows up in the smallest ways. You put yourself down, you settle, and you don't show up for yourself in the way that you could. Not only does that leave you feeling like you're not getting what you want out of life, but you feel guilty almost because of it, because you know a better option is out there. I put the work in getting myself from that point to where I am now, and let me tell you, I was just telling someone the other day, I would literally cry if I told myself in my teenage years the level of self-love that I have now. I was thinking about it further, and I was thinking, you know what? I genuinely don't think I would have believed myself. I don't think I would have thought it was even possible to have the level of confidence, the level of clarity, the level of surety. How my life is now, I wouldn't have even thought it was possible to get where you not only just accept your situation, but actually love yourself. I don't mean just okay, you tolerate your situation. I look okay, it's all right. Whatever, my feelings suck and they hurt, but whatever. I mean genuinely accepting, but then from there, oh my gosh, I appreciate how I feel. I can feel this whole wide range of the human emotions. I appreciate how I look. I love being myself. I love spending time with myself. I used to be so resistant to spending time alone. Now I could literally do anything in the world alone and have a great time. That's almost a really good gauge of, hey, how in sync with yourself are you? If you can't even have dinner with yourself without your phone and sit with yourself, just you and you, there's something that's unaligned. There's something that you're not wanting to look at. There's something that you're avoiding. There's so much to be said around self-love. And that's why this podcast was so important. And I feel like it really wanted to come through me today, was because you could find literally anything about self-love. What's usually what we hear about self-love, okay? For the most part, a lot of the things I see about self-love, it's very commercialized. If you want to love yourself and you want to prove that you love yourself, I don't know, take a bath, buy a bath bomb, buy a face mask, go pay for your nails, get a Stanley cup, drink out of a Stanley cup, and then journal. All of these things, which if you genuinely love yourself, maybe you would do. I mean, if those things are something that you really value. But self-love is a lot deeper than, hey, I bought myself something or I'm doing an action. Most of those things were just actions. It's like, okay, so you love yourself, so you're going to do a bunch of busy work. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Or pay some company money to prove that you love yourself or to pamper yourself. Self-love isn't necessarily just being pampered. It's loving yourself when you look like shit. When you wake up in the morning, you had a bad day yesterday, you're breaking out, you cried, and you just look like a mess. Looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, this is how I look today. I appreciate it. This is how I've been having my human experience. It's part of my journey. I'm loving whatever arises. Of course, it takes a lot of work to get to that place, but when you get there, it's like a different world because you're not living your life afraid that something's going to happen. If you aren't okay with the human experience, if you're not okay with yourself, if you're not in the experience of self-love, you're constantly walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around. Can I really show up and be present with this person? Because they might hurt me. Can I really look at myself in the mirror right now? I might not like it and I might feel a certain way. What if I go outside and I don't get the approval? All of these are little ways that we just put ourselves down. And that's why you feel tired at the end of the day. You feel drained. And a lot of people, they want to show up for themselves and they want to have that self-love. And it's so sad that people who really want to start learning how to love themselves, they want to start showing up for themselves, and they're like, okay, how am I going to start doing this? What's the options here? They tune into what social media is saying, and it's like, okay, buy this. Okay, do this. While that stuff is great, like it's so great to just relax in a bath, you're missing out on a huge part of what loving yourself is really actually about if you're trying to get there through a means of commercialism or occupying yourself. That's another way that people repress their emotions. The need to just constantly have something to do. Okay, you wake up in the morning, it's time to get on TikTok, then it's time to go to work, then it's time to eat, then it's time to watch Netflix, then it's time to do a bunch of busy work so I never have to feel my emotions. I'm never actually with myself. I'm always doing something throughout the day. Then when it's time to go to bed, I can't go to sleep because my mind is running and running. I don't know how to be with myself and hold space for my thoughts without them bothering me. I hear that so much from people of all walks of life. They say, at the end of the day, I'm trying to go to bed and I just can't go to sleep because my mind is running and running. If that's you, you have stuff to process and you have training to do so that you know how to quiet your mind and you're okay to be with yourself. Your relationship with yourself is a bit like a relationship with another person. You are your own roommate for the rest of your life. So how most people go through life, if they're really unconscious, is they're fighting with their roommate all the time. Their roommate and them argue all day and all night. Some people, they learn, okay, I just don't want to see my roommate anymore. I'm just going to avoid my roommate. And that goes back to keeping ourselves constantly busy so that we're never with ourselves. But some people say, okay, I've got this built-in roommate for life. I got to figure out how to work with them. Now, the first thing that usually happens when you start to work with your inner roommate, it's like, imagine this. Someone's been rude to you your entire life. You all have always been fighting and clashing, and maybe you've bullied them. Maybe you've said really terrible things, like the worst things you've ever said to anybody, you've said to them. Maybe you even physically hurt them. Maybe you've allowed them to go through a lot of abuse. One day you wake up and you realize, oh, this isn't working anymore. I made a mistake. And you go and say, hey, I'm sorry. How would you feel if someone did that to you and they showed up and said, I really made a terrible mistake. I just didn't know better. I'm sorry. For most people, they'd be like, excuse me? Like, you put me through all this hell and you show up and you just expect me to forgive you. Most people don't forgive that easily. Even if you can learn to forgive yourself, it takes time to build that trust and to rebuild a relationship with yourself. But if that's you and you feel like you and your inner roommate have not had a good relationship, there is still hope. It does take time and work to love yourself, to appreciate your inner roommate, but there's a way that you all can live together, work together, and you can have a great relationship with your inner roommate. Imagine you coming home, your roommate, hey, I got your dinner cooked. You're like, hey, I did this favor for you. You all are jiving and connecting. Instead of constantly fighting with yourself or wasting energy, avoiding aspects of yourself, now you're working with yourself. You're aligned again. You and your inner roommate are uplifting each other. You're helping yourself to level up. And that's what self-love is all about. So in this episode, I'm really going to get to the practical ways that you can start implementing self-love. It's not about commercialism. It's not about busy work, but this is real deal going to be about how you can start to love yourself and to start making peace with the inner roommate that you have, because you and yourself are locked in for life. You might as well have a good relationship with yourself because you've got years and years left. So I'm going to talk about this in terms of gifts to yourself. Say you want to start over. Hey, self, inner roommate, I'm sorry, let's start over. Let's create a new relationship. here are some gifts that I'm going to give myself so we can have this new relationship that flourishes. The first gift you can give to yourself is acceptance. Hey, this is where we're at right now. Maybe you really resonated with that scenario of feeling like you're at war with your inner roommate, at war with yourself, and you're like, that's where I am. The number one thing with resistance, whatever you resist persists. And resistance just creates more tension. So if you're already in this experience, there's no need to resist it. That's okay. It's part of the human experience. And accepting your path on the journey where you're at will do more for you than just being angry at it or wanting to change it. Obviously, you want to change it, but there's a difference between, hey, I want better for myself, and I'm not okay with how I am today. And everything will always come back to your relationship to the present moment with how you are right now. So it's like the difference between saying, I cannot accept myself at my current weight. I'm not going to give you attention. I'm not going to love you until we're at this dream ideal weight. Versus, hey, I'm with myself right now and I'm going to appreciate myself every step of the journey. And eventually we're going to get to this goal and we're going to get to this ideal weight. But now and throughout the journey, I'm here with you. I'm here with you every step of the way. And not only when we get to that end result, but before, am I going to give you that love and appreciation and acceptance. A recipe for disaster is having the formula of, okay, self, we're going to set out to do something, and only when you accomplish this will you get the praise, will you get the love. This is actually the formula with that most people use to do things, whether it be getting a partner, getting money. It's like, okay, when you get this, I can be happy. But this is a setup. You're setting yourself up if you operate this way. So the main thing that you want to do is give yourself grace and accept where you are right now. And be excited that you're looking at a different path, a different journey for yourself. The second gift that you can give yourself is forgiveness. I mentioned it takes some time to forgive for some people. Forgiveness is almost like a muscle, and the more that you use it, the more it's stronger and the more comfortable that you feel using it. It's one thing to learn how to forgive other people, but ultimately, when you're even forgiving other people, the person that you're really forgiving is yourself. And you can forgive other people out the wazoo, but one of the most challenging things when it comes to forgiveness is forgiving yourself, because we constantly bombard ourselves with, I should have known better, I should have done better, oh, I'm so stupid, whatever the case may be that you think, oh, I could have been better, I shouldn't have done XYZ, which first of all, we don't want that in our vocabulary. Should, blah. If you need to repeat that to yourself a million times, do it. I sure have done that in my journey. And if you're like, should, blah, why? Well, should is almost like an expectation for yourself. And shoulding on yourself, literally you're shoulding on yourself, it's not acknowledging your path. It's almost like judging yourself at 5th grade for what you didn't know when you were in 4th grade. It's like, oh, I should have known that. It's like, okay, well, you were in 4th grade. Now we're in 5th grade and we know a little bit better. It's a way of making expectations. And I tell people, you could have known something in your head, but if you don't know it in your heart, it's not going to reflect in your actions. So if you did know something, you're like, oh, I did know better. You obviously knew that in your head logically. But if you don't know something in your heart, it's not going to reflect in your actions. So forgive yourself for not understanding things in your heart, because now you understand it in your heart. Now you're here at this point where you do understand it in your heart and you can act from that place. Before that lesson, you couldn't act from that place because you didn't understand it yet. And now we're here and you do know better. What a gift it is to have all these experiences and you've grown from them. If you're curious more about forgiveness, I did a podcast about forgiveness not too long ago. But with forgiveness, it can be overcomplicated, to be honest. You can do a 12-step program to forgiveness. You can do a 3-step forgiveness thing. But ultimately, it's like, okay, am I okay with holding on to this for another year? Am I okay with holding on to this for another 5 years? Am I okay with holding on to this for the rest of my life? If the answer is no, then it's simple. You let it go. You're like, okay, well, how do I let it go? Could you let it go for $1 million? You're like, yeah, I could let it go for $1 million. It's that simple. And sometimes I genuinely ask myself, could I let this go for $1 million? And the answer is always yes. It's always yes. And so in that moment, I just let it go. Because honestly, your peace is worth way more than $1 million. And that the trade of letting something go for your inner peace versus holding on to it for some sort of rightness or some sort of grudge, it's worth the trade every single time. And if you're unsure how to let something go, it's like this. If you pick something up and you're holding it in your hand, you're holding onto it tightly. Okay, you want to pick something else up? You have to just let it go. Say you accidentally pick it up again and you're holding it in your hand. That's okay. You can just let it go. That's one thing that I picked up from Frederick Dodson. He says literally, pick something up and drop it 100 times, 50 times. It gets you familiar with the sensation of letting go. Like letting go at a mental level is the same thing as holding something in your hand and just letting go. It's a relaxation of the mind, and whatever you're holding in mind will just fade. So forgiveness can be as simple as, hey, I'm going to let this go. I forgive it. So if it ever pops up again, maybe there's some more processing to do. And that's when coaching and doing subconscious work comes into place, because sometimes you have a subconscious fixation on things. I know I've had that come up in my life, but there's nothing that inner work and coaching cannot solve. The third gift that you can offer yourself is time. Just like we talked about in that example of you show up and you say, sorry, I didn't know better. It might take that person time to forgive you. So allow your inner experiences, your inner world time to unravel. It takes time for you to have those things come up and process. And who cares how long it takes? Okay, if you had something to release and it takes you a minute, an hour, 10 hours, 3 days, a year, who cares? All that matters is that you are feeling good again and you've let go of whatever is bothering you. So don't be a way of giving yourself self-love is giving yourself time across the board. That means, to me, not rushing yourself every day. I give myself time in between appointments. I give myself time when traveling. I give myself time when making podcasts. It's something that I've integrated into my life because it's a part of self-love, giving yourself time and owning your time. If you feel like your own time, your own life is not yours, how can you love yourself? It's time to take back your power, take back your time. You are the creator of your minute. You are the creator of your hour. You're the creator of your day. You're the creator of your week, your month, your year, your life. But it all goes back to you creating your minute, right? So giving yourself time and ample of it is generally a huge practice of self-love. I mentioned some examples already, but practically how this looks for me is scheduling time for me to shower. Scheduling time for me to not just shower, but take a long shower and do all the things, shaving, getting your hair done, doing your makeup, eating. There's nothing I hate more than rushing eating. I also make sure when I'm driving, I have time to drive, because rushing is one of the least conscious, least good things you can do for yourself. Imagine I'm rushing in my car, trying to get to a destination fast. I'm not thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about others. Imagine me cutting people off in traffic, making them mad, and I'm doing myself a disservice because I'm rushing and I'm not being as cautious. I'm not being as careful as I normally could be because I feel like I'm under this time pressure. And rushing always leads to you losing time. I don't know if you have ever been super in a hurry and you make a decision to do something differently to save time, and it's like, okay, I'm going to take this shortcut. But that shortcut that you thought would save you time actually ends up taking you 3 times as long because you were trying to rush and trying to get there quickly. That's just how life works. The more that you rush to try to do things, the more that you try to speed up the process, the slower it takes. So the more intentional that you get about every single moment, the more that you slow it down and be with yourself, the easier your journey will be, the more enjoyable your journey will be, and actually the faster you will get there. There's a saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So time, and plenty of it, is a great gift that you can give yourself. The next gift that you can give yourself that goes along with time is space. Time and space. We live in a physical universe. That's what our world is made up of, is time and space. So the next thing that you can do as a gift for yourself is allowing yourself to take up space. And the practicality of this and the implications of this are incredible. When someone is feeling small, notice how that shows up in their physicality. When someone feels really small, they ball themselves up, they put their shoulders in, they put their head down, and they talk really quiet. Their internal state is being reflected in their mannerisms. They're feeling small and they're literally making themselves smaller. And the opposite, have you ever noticed someone who they are just present, and not only are they there in the room, but they are okay to take up space with their body language is open, they're okay to take up space in the air with their voice, they're okay to talk, they're okay to share, they're okay to express. They take up space, they're more expressive in their body language, they laugh louder, they use a lot of gestures. And that's when people talk about like the physiology of being really small versus being relaxed and being open. And taking up space can also look like doing what you want to do when you want to do it, not in a way that harms other people. For example, have you noticed how rarely people want to go first? Almost no one wants to be that first person to go to the buffet, that first person to say, hey, me. We're all kind of standing around waiting for someone to go. The smaller that you feel within yourself, the more you don't allow yourself to do what you want to do on a daily basis. And if you're in this experience, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're not, and it doesn't apply to you, you won't know what I'm talking about. Even when I was in this space of feeling really small, for example, I would be like at the grocery store, waiting like 5 minutes while someone's in front of the yogurt. Instead of just saying, hey, excuse me, and just taking my item and go, it's like they don't know that you're waiting there, and you end up waiting there for like 10 minutes. And these are just like the silly games that people play when they feel really small within themselves. The more space you take, the more you allow yourself to get what you want conveniently and just simply asking for it. This is a great example. I went to this group that I had never visited before, this biking group. And I didn't really know how it works. I'd never done this, but I met this girl there. Amazing girl. You could tell she's just one of those people. She's with herself and she takes up space too. One of our stops, we end up at a restaurant and there's this long line for drinks. People are getting beers. I tell her that I'm going to get in line to get a water. And she's like, oh, well, we don't need to get in line for a water. We can just go to the front of the line and ask. It's just a water. And so I'm like, okay, that's a great idea. So we bypass the line. We go right up to the front. And we just say, hey, we want a water. And sure enough, they just bring out the water. Simple as that. Now, if you weren't okay with taking up the space, if you weren't confident in just asking for what you want openly, you would have had to wait in that whole long line just for some water. And some people, they just don't have that within themselves to be okay with just asking for what they want. When I was out of town, I saw my aunt. And she had a similar story. They were in this store, they had pre-ordered a cake, but there was a huge line. And she's like, we pre-ordered, we already paid, we just need to pick it up. So they just got right up to the front. And that's not being rude to other people, but if you've already paid for a service, if you are just getting water, there's no need for you to make yourself smaller just to fit into the crowd or not rock the boat. Hey, if it's authentic to you to just wait in line, then that's authentic to you. But if you feel like, hey, this is just not right, the employees would be on a different page with me if they knew what was going on. You need to have the courage to step up and say, hey, this is what's happening. It was funny that time when I was at the restaurant and we got first for water, another girl came in and she said, I really don't want to wait in this long line just for some water. And I go, oh, it's fine. We'll go to the front and get you water. And she looks at me like, what? So she was a little unsure still of that being possible. And so I just did it for her. And she was so grateful. The point is, if you're feeling a little unsure, if you're doubting your worth a little bit in the situation, I don't know, do I have the right to just go up and ask for water? It can be a little bit intimidating to do that. But at least that person mentioned it to someone who unconsciously she probably knew I could help her. The worst that could happen is the person says, unfortunately, you've got to get in this long line for water, which almost no one would say because it doesn't make sense. If that seems really intimidating to you, there are so many examples though. People make up all these little rules of what they can and they can't do, and they operate like that. Oh, we can't sit here, we can't go here. If you watch people, you know what I'm talking about. If a door is closed or if an area looks really nice, people will be a little bit timid to go in there. And what I want for you is the attitude that you are worthy. You are worthy of taking up space. You are worthy of being in different places. You are worthy for going up and directly asking for help. Because the smaller you feel, the more you box yourself in and give yourself these little rules that you have to live by. This is honestly the key to having more freedom. Being open to ask for what you want and open to do what you want to do. I'm obviously not talking about at other people's expense. We're not talking about from a space of entitlement. But I honestly wish I had some more concrete examples to give you, because if you pay attention, you'll notice all the ways that people kind of limit themselves, and they're afraid to ask for what they really want because no one else is asking for what they really want, or they're afraid to do what they want to do because, well, everyone else is doing this or going to this place, so no one else is going to this little area or doing X, Y, and Z, so I guess this must be fine. If you genuinely want to do something else, then it's no longer authentic for you to just settle for what everyone else is settling for. So in your daily life, this can show up as asking for what you want from someone who can help you. The person at the store. Hey, you're out of this on the cabinet. Can you look for it in the back? Hey, can I customize this? People will be glad to help you get what you want because it's part of an enjoyment when you have a job. So don't think of it as an inconvenience. 2, taking up space. Okay, you want to sit on the couch in the restaurant. No one else is sitting there. So that's weird. Is the couch off limits? No, it's specifically for you. Go sit on the couch. And being open with your body. When I'm in yoga, sometimes people get really shy because they don't want to accidentally touch the person to the right of them. And the worst thing that happens if that happens is, oops, you accidentally touched them, and you redirect your body so that you're not bothering them again. But it's yoga, and most people expect to have some proximity to someone else. The more you feel worthy of your worth inherently, the easier it is to show up and give yourself space. But giving yourself space can also look like going to your room and calming down when you feel a type of way. It can look like leaving the party because it's just you need to get space. Literally giving yourself the physical space of whatever is going on in your life right now. I'm just needing the space, so I'm going to take a little time out and I'm going to give myself some space and some time. Hopefully that made sense, and we'll move on to the next gift, which is one of the best and most important gifts that you can give yourself. Are you ready? So this is the gift of attention. What is the number one thing that we're looking for when we're looking for stuff from the outside? If you think about it deeply, it's usually that we're looking for attention. For example, say your goal is money. Well, usually the train of thought goes, okay, if I had money, then I could get attention from other people. Then I could get love. Or with a partner. If I had a partner, then I could get attention from the partner and I could feel love. Love and attention are somehow correlated, because in order to give something love, to shower something with love, you also have to give it attention. You have to give it time, space, and attention. That's why this is a really potent recipe for self-love. Practically how this can look like is genuinely, when you're giving yourself time and when you're giving yourself space, giving yourself attention, putting your physical attention on yourself. Instead of using your mind and your brain power to fantasize about something you don't have yet, something that happened in the past, you can use your attention and physically just put it on your body. Sounds too simple to work, right? But genuinely, if you imagine yourself under a ray of light, almost like a spotlight of your attention, that will charge you up like nothing else. If you just give yourself attention by putting your heart on your hand on your heart, putting your hand on your head, putting your hands wherever your body asks to be touched. That is a way of giving yourself attention. That can show up as, okay, running yourself that bath, taking that time in the shower, whatever your body wants for attention. But most of the time, it can be a moment of literally just redirecting your attention back to the present moment, back to your body, back within yourself. How do I feel right in this moment? And accepting that and giving that attention. A lot of the time, your brain makes up drama simply why? To get attention. You have trained your brain. I will always give you attention. If you bring up something horrible that happened in my past, I'm always gonna lose myself in that. I'm gonna give you attention when you bring that up. So there is a process of retraining your brain. Hey, this isn't how we get attention anymore. The problem that comes with this is that the attention that you get, it causes a negative feeling too. When you're thinking about drama from the past, you're giving yourself attention, but it's in a negative way. And it's almost like that child that acts out because they know they'll get attention. It doesn't matter what type of attention it gets, but it knows this has been the easiest path for me to get attention ASAP. So it's a process of retraining your mind what gets it attention. And when you're on this journey of repatterning, whenever you notice that you're stuck in drama mentally, or you're thinking about something you don't want to have your attention on, you can stop and ask yourself, hey, is this your way of getting my attention? And it's funny, and it's almost always, it's like, yeah, this is my way of getting attention right now. And so with that, yeah, you can just give yourself attention right then, or you can focus on what you prefer in that moment. Occasionally it's a no and there's something that you need to be doing, but at least you have that clarity and you can get action on whatever needs to be fixed. But 9 times out of 10, you're living in mental drama simply because your body wants attention. It's the same thing with physical things that come up. In sickness, it's like sometimes your body will do whatever it takes to get the attention. Even if it doesn't make sense to you why it's having an adverse reaction, it's working to get your attention. So you can solve all these problems by just giving your attention in the now. And that is one of the most powerful ways that you can start extending yourself self-love. So how that looks practically is in a moment of mental drama saying, hey, is this your way of getting my attention? And just placing your attention back on you. Maybe your hand on your heart, and maybe you just take a deep breath and you nourish yourself with oxygen, you nourish yourself with water, whatever your body asks for, and you just give yourself attention. For me, this looks like on a daily basis. When I go to bed, I'm cuddling with myself because I have learned from my life, I don't want to have to wait for an external person to feel that type of coziness, to feel that type of love, and to feel that energy in my body. Anything that you experience with someone else, you can generate that with yourself. 9 times out of 10, it's you generating the energy field and projecting onto something, not the other way around. So a lot of people think, okay, it's that other person that brings the love. It's that scenario that brings the love, but it's actually your energy field. It would be like the sun saying, oh my gosh, the moon has a really nice glow. That moon gives off the glow, not realizing that it's actually the one providing the light it's getting reflected back onto. Does that make sense? You are feeling your own projection and you're creating the own love that you feel. It's kind of like how they say don't meet your heroes, because you're projecting this glamour onto them and they might not always be that glamorous in real life. I'm not saying no one provides love in the situation, but if you are constantly waiting for that external experience, that external person to provide the love, it's never going to happen. And when it does, it's going to leave and you're going to feel unfulfilled. Anything that you feel the love in, a person, a scenario, you can recreate that energy without that external circumstances. And I know you can create it for yourself without that because you did it in that scenario. So in my life, I love to cuddle in bed. Who doesn't? But I don't have to wait for another person to feel all snuggly in my bed. I can feel like I'm cuddling myself, and I can feel that same love, that same type of cozy energy, whether or not another person is there. If another person was there, it would add more energy to the mix. Sure, that's fun, but I can still feel fulfilled when I'm alone. If you don't feel that way, it's almost like being a drug addict. You have to have X, Y, and Z for your fix. And that is not what you want if you're looking for a fulfilled anything. So another way of giving yourself attention can be recreating those moments of fulfillment that you feel like are on the outside, but really they're on the inside. the last time you really felt like that deep love? What was the circumstance? And could you recreate that for yourself in the now? I promise you, you can. I could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours and help you even more about self-love, but I feel like this was a lot to process and a lot to work with in general. If you have more questions though, feel free to reach out to me one-on-one. All my socials are at Siva's Soul. I have so much more where this came from and more practical and deep exercises that get to the depths of why you're not feeling that way in the now and clear out anything that's blocking you from feeling the worthiness, the wholeness, the love in the now, because you are all those things already. Don't let anyone tell you any differently. You are all of those things because you are, and just because you are, period. So if you're ready to align and thrive as your highest self, reach out to me, comment or DM me a line, and we can see how to get you started. I appreciate you for tuning in today. I hope you are able to implement some of these things, and let me know if you take the advice, what happens, what you let go of, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Peace and love at ya. Goodbye.